Hello everyone, my name is Rogério and I'm going to present what I did last week, or was it a couple weeks ago. I built the same agent in 9 different frameworks. This is me. I don't really look like Ghibli, but because they don't have the filter in real life, but you can see Amsterdam behind, super nice. But first, let me start with the question, what even is an agent? So this is the question that a lot of people don't agree already. They say that like, no, this is just all workflows under the hood. So what I'm calling an agent here in this presentation is really the concept that we all seem to agree on, the most basic one, and the one that we see in production most often already, which is one single loop with an LLM call in the middle, doing two calling and acting on the environment and getting feedback until itself decides to stop. So the difference from this to a simple automation workflow is that the LLM itself is deciding to take a step further or stop. And this is what I'm calling an agent. And yeah, some people say that it's actually only an agent that comes from the agentic region of France. Otherwise, it's just sparking automation. But seriously, this all started when this actually not because of this article, but because of this one by OpenAI. So a few months ago, Anthropic launched not a paper/article on building effective agents, and this is really good. I recommend you to take a read because it's really practical and pragmatic on what they see in real world, and that's my experience as well at LangWatch and with our customers on what they're building. And while we talk a lot about agents and multi-agents and like going free and automating everything, in real life, that agent that I just showed is the one that is working so far, that we can take control, right? And we're trying to get to a more advanced stage. That and of course, more traditional, simple LLM workflows. And then OpenAI launched the guide on, I think because of Anthropic, but a practical guide to building agents. And this was actually a bit of a disappointment to me, because it's very hand-wavy. It's a more marketing, and not a really practical on what it should be doing. It doesn't base itself on much, even though it has a practical in the name. And then, yeah, so this is good, this is nice. And then this actually triggered Harrison from LangChain, because they had a big red warning on their OpenAI guide on declarative versus non-declarative graphs, so clearly an attack directly to Langgraph, and then says that you should use OpenAI Agent SDK, of course, that's better because all the agents collaborate freely, and that's good. And then he was basically on the other camp that like, actually in real world, I don't see all this free thing just working, you need to kind of control it. And this sparkled a big debate on the internet on people like, do you even need a framework? Just call OpenAI in the loop, that's it. And what is the point of frameworks anyway? And this is when I set to start actually testing those. So I had already played with most of those frameworks, but like, yeah, I wanted to see the ergonomics of each of them. If it's how does it help me build stuff? And then I just tweeted this. I actually hadn't built anything when I tweeted this, but then people liked it, and then I had to build it. So, so then I created this repository, Create Agent App, which is a repository with now, after people asked, so I added those, DSPy, Langgraph, Google ADK, Pydantic, Inspect, and people asked a bunch more. I added more, and I'll keep adding. But what is this agent that I built there? So the idea of the repository is to build several types of agents, trying to follow. First, I looked at the Anthropic document. I looked at what we have, right, of our clients, what we see out there in the market, what is the most practical things that people are really building. And then my plan is to have an agent for each one of those use cases times every framework there, and then see how it looks like on each of them. So I started with the most literal common one, which is the customer support agent. So this is an agent which has a big prompt, not even that big, but good enough instructions, a set of tools that the agent can go itself, go finding customer history, go fetch what is the company policy on this, on that, or escalate to human. And all of them I'm using the same model, which is at that point specifically Gemini 2.5 flash per for 17. And then what it really looks like, an interaction with this agent behind the scenes, is a thread like this. So the user is asking ordered status, and the agent replies. Then the user asks, show me my recent orders, give some details, and then asks for information. Then the agent replies with a JSON that would be, maybe something on the interface. And then all of them, I already tell you that behind the scenes, the frameworks, they don't change much. There's only one framework, only DSPy is the one that takes care of your framework because that's their goal of them. But all the others, they're mostly passing your prompt through to the LLM models. So what we're really measuring here is which of those frameworks help you develop better, right? Will make you build more reliable agents or build faster at least. And then the other thing that I used was a library that we built at Langgraph as well, which is Scenario, which is a little framework for you to test your agent using another agent. So that's interesting because you write a simple Python test coding scenarios, and then you have an automated agent that takes this scenario and try to mimic your user asking for it. And like if it's an annoyed user asking for a refund, it will replicate annoyed user for a refund to test your agent. So it's an agent testing your agent. And then I use that on the first framework that I did, and then I use the same test for every one of them. So one test was that every agent that I built across the frameworks should behave the same or should pass the same. Okay, now let's go to a bit of code. Here I have it. So if you go in the repository, you see the same that I'm seeing here. You have a folder for each of those agents, so that's very nice because right out of the bat you can go and explore the code yourself, and you can see how they look like, and you can see what makes sense to you and what you prefer. But they all look more or less like this. So here I have a high-level example of Langgraph. I have a system prompt, which, I made it for the screen already. But so you can see the whole prompt. But so I'm using this nice XML tags. I'm explaining it's customer service, some guidelines, and so on. And then I give it tools, right? So I have all the same tools. And most of frameworks look the same, to be honest. So you have those functions that you define as tools, and then you create your agent at some point, and you give those tools for your agent. And then we have the call agent, which under the hood is doing whatever the framework needs to do. But then each framework gives you a different interface on how you interact with it. But the point is that it has a memory. So we call an agent with a user message, and then the user, and then it replies, the user will ask again, and so on. And the user in this case is our scenario testing agent. So I'll show you how this runs. So here we have our, I'm using the Langgraph, the high-level API one, which abstracts a lot of things for us. So if I come here, I can execute this. So I do run PyTest. Yeah, it's really at the bottom. But I'm executing the test get order status. And then I have a user that goes there and just asks order status like users do, right? They don't write everything. They just tell something. And then now if my Wi-Fi works, maybe I should connect to a different Wi-Fi. Anyway, I'll show how the test looks like meanwhile, and see if this internet works. But the way this is running is we have this test here, and then here I'm writing a scenario. User asks about the status of the last order, and then I specify my agent here, or the function that calls my agent, then some criteria, and the failure criteria. And then I can limit the number of steps, but I don't need to. What it's going to do is it's going to use my testing agent, which is defined as here, which is also Gemini 2.5. And then it's going to start asking my other agent and trying to simulate the conversation like that, checking for those criteria. If any of the failure criteria matches, the test stops. And if all of the success criteria matches, then the test also stops and ends. And yeah, does it have Wi-Fi here?
Should have.
New house?
Yeah,
You have the password? should probably have done that before. Ooh, okay. I need to scan it. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Sorry for that. Demo problems. All right. It's either that or Google or Gemini is offline, which yeah, could be. Okay, there it goes. So then, yeah, the user says order status, and then the agent replies, and then you can see that it does some 2 calls, and then it passed, right? So this is the Langgraph high-level agent. Now, if I go to another one, so for example, this set. So if I go to the Agno example, this is a framework that a lot of people ask that I haven't heard about it before. And I run it again, the same test. Let me run this. Sorry? I don't know. It's an open source framework. I don't know if it's a company behind.
2 guys in SF.
Yeah. And yeah, then you see that the same test pass. And if you look at the output, is actually all the same. So all these frameworks, they are helping you behave the same. And I wrote another test too, just a sec, which is, so here I have the case where a user complains and is trying to get a refund. So you can see that, yeah, our agent has all the tools to do the job, and then it gets job done. Some of those like help me caught when a tool was not well connected, or like when I wasn't understanding the framework well to implement it. Yeah. Anyway, internet's not helping, so I should just show the code. So here I have some. I'll go to some special mentions ones. First of all, the Google one. I had really high hopes for this one, and then when you look at the code, it's actually good. It's okay. But it took me so long to get there. It's actually there is a lot of bugs that I had to get around. The documentation was poor. But at the end of the day, you see it's similar. You build an agent, you give an instruction, you give it tools. Then you go to, Pydantic, for example. Also, I had some issues over here with them. And then, they're expected to be a bit better. But it's basically the same. You have an agent, and then you give it some, where do I give it tools? Oh yeah, you don't give it tools. You mark them as a tool with this annotation, but then the tools are mostly the same. A few relevant ones here that I want to show. First of all is the DSPy one. I found it interesting because it's the only that, even though this also looks the same, behind the scenes it behaves a bit differently. If I run the test, I don't think you'll be able to see because the internet's not working out, but if you run the test, you see that it runs faster. It executes faster because by default, it's not using JSON for the function calling. It's putting everything in line as a text. And I think that would be horrible and fail all the time. But actually, with the current models, it works all the time. And because it's not formatting everything in JSON, it's faster. And in some tests, a bit smarter as well, because it's less for the LLM to think about, right? And it's nice because since it's only text, it fits with the open source small model. So if you have a 2B model, that will also work fine. The other ones won't so much. Another nice or relevant mention that I want to make is to InspectAI. So InspectAI is actually not a framework to build agents. It's a framework to run evaluations, just like we do at Language. But their API is actually very interesting also to build agents, and because they are made for that, and you can you do some testing here too, some benchmarking and so on. So that's also very interesting to check out. And the other one that I also give a special mention is the Agno one, because a lot of people asked and I didn't understand why. But then when I started building the example for them, I really liked their docs. Everything was so smooth, everything was so chill, and okay, it works well. So from those models of building agents, they had the easiest experience, let's say. And then small agent, I actually was quite disappointed. This is small agents is for Hugging Face. If you look on how they work, here I had to I have to hack it away, the prompt templates, because actually the way they built the framework was with the theory in mind that you wouldn't need to care about your prompts and you just use this agent or that agent out of the box. But I haven't seen this working in practice, so I kind of had to hack around them for that to work. And it seems that is also not that that's well maintained ever since in a while. And finally, the no framework one. You saw all those hopefully as I was scrolling. So now look how the no framework one looks. Just the same. So it's pretty much the same. I actually realized that there is an OpenAI helper that I can use to replace that. So ignore that. So I just want one helper function to convert my functions to schema. But I can give it a list of tools. And what I have here is a good old while loop. And then I call the completion endpoint. And then I do the tool call. So this is a bit of annoying part, but it's actually not that unreadable code. And that's it. That's over. So what all the frameworks are doing for me and the other ones is mostly this, right? So I know this is a very simple example, and then this is why I want to keep incrementing the repo with more complex examples, because I think where those frameworks really shine is when you get more than that. You know, when you need memory, when you need deployment, when you need long-term memory, and all those kinds of things. But for if anyone hadn't had this experience yet, I actually recommend trying it out the raw route and doing it yourself by hand, because you can learn a lot, and then you review everything behind the magic very easily. Where is my presentation again? Not this one. Sorry. I completely lost my presentation. Nope, different event. Oh, there's two full screens. That's nice. Yeah, so then I thought of having a slide for each thing of like the pros and cons, but I already ran to code, and I thought to take too much time. So check out my Twitter. I wrote a full explanation on my thoughts on each one of them, and really check out the repo. Looking for contributions. We still want to add TypeScript examples. I'm looking for a lot of people asked the Vercel AI, Mastra, AX, which is like the DSPy on TypeScript. So there's a lot of things there to do. Add more agents. So we already have an agent actually. Yeah, this one is also interesting to show. There is also already an agent in Pydantic here, apart from the customer support one, which is the vibe coding agent. So this is like a lovable clone. It can code. Damn, I wish I had good internet, because that's an impressive example to show, because then it builds a very cool dog website landing page, and you just need to give it some tools like read file, update file, break file. It works super well. I wanted also to have that on the other frameworks, right? And once again, and so we want to add more agents and make it a template. So having all those things there makes it really easy for you to get started. It's very simple code at the end when you look at it, right? But it took me a while, on like about an hour literally on each of those, for going on their docs and understanding it all, how it all connects. So it's good to have a bootstrap, and I think we don't have that yet. So my plan is to make all those folders with just a command that you do like UVX, create agent app, DSPy, and then boom, you start with DSPy. And then maybe you start customer support, start vibe coding agents. So having this as template so that anyone can use. So yeah, if you like it, check it out, the repo, give it a star, and thank you very much.
On the thanks for presentation, first of all. On the test that you built, you kind of give it like in natural language what is passing the phases. Do you use LLM to validate?
Yeah, exactly. So that test, let me jump here. It's exactly that. So you define, you can hear me, right? I don't need to look. You define your testing agent here at the top. And then this testing agent has a default prompt of like, yeah, you behave as a user. Yeah, it's here. You're pretending to be a user, approaches naturally, which you can define. But by default, it comes with one. And then, yes, you define in natural language. And this really helped me kind of TDD the agent. So like, I wanted to do this, I just create a new success criteria here and I run. And then, of course, because it's natural language, it's not gonna work immediately, right? So you test it a bit as well. There is a debug mode for that. So you can do dash debug, and then you, yeah, not this one, dash debug. Sorry. Yeah, there we go. And then you enter the debug mode that you can literally chat with the agent. But yeah, but behind the scenes, your evaluator agent is checking if it's passing any of those tests. So it's kind of a bit of back and forth until you get something stable. And then after that's stable, that's super good, actually, that you can reuse for running again and yeah, catch some regressions and so on. But I can keep chatting here. And then I didn't need, that made it much easier. So I didn't need to hook up all those frameworks with an interface because that would be a lot of work. So yeah.
Considering that you prepared all these different examples, what is something that you noticed when you were putting them together, something that was missing from all of them, and you would like to have in the future iteration of this one?
Something that was missing from all of them.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, well, documentation first. it's bad all over the place. But actually, that's the thing. I don't think much. So that's why the no framework example is it's so good. So what I'm trying to do is taking a very pragmatic approach here. So that's why I'm looking at the anthropic examples and see what people are really doing out there. So I want, and then please tell me, I want those heavy examples where like a lot of agents have to interact together, and you can definitely prove me that's better than a simple agent or than a simple workflow, right? Because a lot of those frameworks, they have some tools for that, for handover and so on. But I have some use cases, you know, from customers that they managed to test it and evaluate it and prove that that was better. But yeah, it's limited scenario. So I wanted to see that to be able to get to the limit that you're saying, like what does the framework doesn't provide? Because so far, yeah, they do provide. So it's more if they get in your way than not.
Thank you.
There's one thing actually. Sorry, if I may. Some of them use, for example, like LLM behind the scenes. And that's fine because you can call all LLMs. Some others have their own way of doing stuff, of calling the LLMs, and then sometimes it's limiting. Sometimes I want to pass an option that I can't, or I want to use an LLM that is not supported. That's something to look forward to.
One more.
Sorry, it's really low volume. I can't hear.
What's really going to transform what's you most excited?
Oh, yeah, thank you. What I'm most excited about, what?
Which tool do you see getting a lot of usage in the coming months? Does you use a lot of tools?
Right. Yeah, one that I'm excited. Yeah, since last year, folks that know me know, and I'm still excited is DSPy. They are launching just the version 3 now, and they are the only ones that are going a different. Not the only ones, sorry. They are ones that are going a different tangent because they are focusing on a different set of problems, let's say, and this self-optimizing. They just launched the GRPO for LLMs, quite interesting now. The other one is InspectAI. I think they really have a nice API. It's done by the British government, and like they are not known at all. And the other one that I am excited also to see where it goes is the Langgraph functional API, or if someone comes with something similar. So Langgraph Function API is totally different from what Langgraph mostly promotes, which is the graphs. This is also a lesser known API, but it's much lower level, while everyone else is going on like the crew AI type of thing, more high level agents. They're going the more lower level. And I think for really taking control of your AI workflows, I think it's a very interesting approach because it's kind of like React, more functional programming kind of thing. So yeah, I'm actually excited about seeing all those directions. You know, sorry, I don't have one single answer for you. I kind of want to know where they all will lead to when we push them to max. Yeah.
Yeah.